Chris. Stand by. Hopefully he's online.
I think we might be on the air.
Oh, yeah, we are. I'm sure people can hear us and they're like, what the heck is going on? Oh, yeah. Look at us. We're just talking. We're live.
Okay.
What is going on, everybody? Hold on. We're going to come back at 2.
Yeah, there we go. All right.
But here we are. Hey! Great start to the show. What is going on, everybody? We're a little bit early here. The countdown screen didn't pop up.
We're just...
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Saturday afternoon Stokastic NHL strategy show. What a mess to the day. I got locked out of Twitter. Cliffy had some issues traveling yesterday. He's in wherever he is. I don't want to dox his location. But here we are, Saturday afternoon. How you feeling? How you feeling today?
Feeling pretty good, actually. I'm here in La Belle Province de Québec. I'm in Montreal for a little vacation. And yeah, yesterday was a travel day. Freezing rain on the way out. I saw 3 cars, 1 totaled before I got about 10 minutes outside of my hometown. And then I saw a 4-car pile up about 20 minutes after that. And then I saw an 18-wheeler go off the road about 10 minutes after that. So less than an hour into my drive, I saw 5 different accidents. Took me 15 hours to drive 8 hours. It was absolutely brutal, but I made it. And mercifully, I think for us, it didn't give me much of an opportunity to go out on the town last night. I really didn't. I didn't get out to go see a couple friends until about midnight. So feeling pretty spry today, actually, which is surprising because I usually don't feel this way when I wake up in Montreal.
Yeah, I haven't been to Montreal in probably 20 years. I've been meaning to get back, but probably should renew the passport first. But
I think that's kind of important.
Yeah, it expired like 2 years ago. But yeah, you need to renew the passport, come out there, see the Canadian brethren. I got lost in the underground mall in Montreal when I was 13. I couldn't find my family for 3.5 hours. It was a good time.
I mean, that'll happen. That happened to me when I was 18. I think we were in different states of mind compared to when you were 13. But I got lost too. And then my brother found me on the subway. So, it is a city that can kind of sneak up on you. They call it the Vegas of the North for a reason.
Yeah, I do really enjoy it. I need to come back. But yeah, we have a nice 8-gamer tonight. Big contest last night. The contests are better for a Saturday on NHL. They're still not great, but like they're pretty good. I'm assuming you didn't play.
No.
Yeah. 15-hour drive. Yeah.
I didn't even have. We're stuck in the middle of nowhere. I didn't even have internet when we were pulled over on the side of the road. So it was a long day.
Yeah. So I was, for whatever reason, I stayed up. Rangers went down 4-1. They came back and won 5-4. I was bubbling at the end of the game, of the end of the slate, and I was like, I probably won't full cash, but I'm still gonna, possibly win this $300 ticket. And then I fell asleep because I'm old, and I woke up and they added a Hedel assist on the Lafreniere goal, so I ended up full cashing, which was nice. Got the ticket. They released the 444 for Tuesday. Is 52 max, a $700,000 prize pool, $150,000 the first. I think it's $5K to 6th. So
win it.
Yeah, just win, baby.
It's not that hard. Just win it.
Yeah, but tonight is an interesting one. We got some big boys on the slate, including the Leafs, who traded for Ryan O'Reilly late last night, and Noel Acai Berry. I call him Acai Berry, but I actually like. it's like two sides of the coin on that trade. It's kind of like I saw some people are like, yeah, Dubas is really going for it. And Dubas has big balls for that trade. But like, it's a good trade. But like, if you're going to give up that much, don't you think that could have gotten Timo Meier?
I mean, maybe, but at the same time, can they afford to extend Timo Meier? Like, I don't think you trade for Timo unless you plan to extend it, right? Because he's still only 26 years old, I think. Like, he wouldn't be a rental. So I think that's kind of what played into it. And I think, I mean, that sets the bar for what Timo's going to get in a trade too, right? Like San Jose's going to get a haul for him. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting trade for Toronto because you got to wonder where he slots in the lineup. I know there's some speculation that he might just slot right onto the second line with John Tavares and start taking some faceoffs. That makes sense to an extent. I think that's something they'll do, not quite to the Edmonton level where Edmonton will start McDavid and Draisaitl on different lines and put them together during the game. I think you're going to see something like that with Toronto where, maybe Ryan O'Reilly, quote unquote, lines up on the third line, but he ends up spending like half his shifts playing with, the top six forwards. So, Ryan O'Reilly's going to be in the lineup tonight, but do you have any opinion on where he might slot in? Like, the third line's actually not that bad, but he's clearly a big upgrade over David Kampf there. But would you put him with Tavares or would you put him on the third line?
I'm not sure. Like, some people are like, oh, they gave up too much to put him in the bottom six. But like, I don't know. I was looking at his numbers this year, and yeah, they've fallen off. But like, it's also because his line mates sucked. They haven't had very good seasons with St. Louis, and I think, he's still a very, very good defensive center. I'm wondering if they try to move Tavares to the wing.
Yeah, that's something else too, because, Tavares, but I mean, him and Ryan O'Reilly, I'd say, like, foot speed wise, like, they're fairly similar players. And I don't really buy into that argument that they paid too much to put him on the third line. Like, look at what Tampa did with Goodrow and Blake Coleman and Brandon Hagel, like Nick Paul. Those guys all came in and went to the third line, and Tampa went to 3 straight cup finals. So, like, you need Colorado was kind of an exception last year because they had such a great blue line between Makar, Taves, Byram, and Gerard. Most of the time, you'll see 3-line cup final and winning up. So, pretty good trade for Toronto, I think.
I'm actually wondering if they run a third line of O'Reilly, Yarncroc, Enval, and they just use it as the checking line, and they put out like Matthews against not top comp.
I mean, that would make a lot of sense too, right?
Yeah.
But I think they like using that Matthews line against top comp because typically they're good defensively themselves as well, and it helps shut down that line. But don't really need a shutdown line for this matchup tonight, though, do we?
Absolutely not. And let's get into the slate. Before we do, about 7 of you in here, just smash that like button, hit the subscribe. It helps us out a lot. Not as much as the promo that we have later for you, where you can get a weekly for 50% off. You also can get monthly for 50% off. Saw a bunch of you guys sign up yesterday, but make sure you use that link in the description. It is the only way to get it. Hop in the Discord. Lots of new names in Discord last night. It was nice to see a lot of NBA guys in there, but it was still a nice little flow. It was very friendly for the most part, which is always nice to see. And just make sure you smash that like button. Let's get into the slate. The Montreal Canadiens with a 2.3 total heading into Toronto. The Maple Leafs have a 4.1 total. Jake Allen, Joseph Woll confirmed. I haven't seen, lines yet for Toronto, as I have been logged out of Twitter. So I'm going off what I can see in the lineup builder, which should be okay. It'll be interesting to see where Ryan O'Reilly. Obviously, we were just discussing that, and we don't have a definitive opinion, but we do know that Matthews, Nylander, and Bunting most likely are going to stick together. They have a very, very big projection. The one thing that you always mention with Montreal going into Toronto is Montreal always plays Toronto well. That being said, this Montreal team's a shell of the team that even took the ice at the beginning of the season. There's so many injuries. You have the shooter on the knoll on the top round, Raphael Harvey-Pinard, who's 5,500 all of a sudden. Like, I get it. Like the Leafs are having a great season. Sometimes they haven't been great for DFS, but that top line for the Leafs is pretty appealing, and they're not getting massive ownership.
Yeah, I know what you mean by this Montreal lineup kind of being a shell of itself. Obviously, especially with Cole Caulfield having surgery and being out of the lineup, but Montreal beat this very Toronto team less than a month ago, and that was after Caulfield got hurt. They beat them 3-2 in overtime. If you go back a few seasons, like just not even counting playoffs, where Habs came back and beat Toronto in 7 games, not counting playoffs, like the regular season series typically is pretty split between these two teams. Like, if you're not an NHL regular, especially if you're not a Canadian NHL DFS player, like Hockey Night in Canada, Toronto at home with Montreal in town is about as big as it gets for a regular season game. For these teams, like obviously Toronto has their measuring stick games against teams like Boston and Tampa Bay and all that, but just from emotional side of things, like this, these teams. I shouldn't say these teams always get up for each other. Certainly, Toronto doesn't always get up for games against Montreal, and that's why frequently. Yes, this is a game that Toronto should have very comfortably, especially if Ryan O'Reilly is in the lineup. So I am going to start with the Leafs. We talked a bit about at the start of the show about where O'Reilly might slot. I think you're right in that Bunting, Nylander, and Matthews are going to stay together. I mean, at least for tonight, right? Maybe they move Mitch Marner up to the line or something during the game, but you're going to see Bunting, Nylander, and Matthews staying together, I imagine. It's just a matter of what happens to those second and third lines. And Ryan O'Reilly is not even guaranteed to be in the lineup. Like, I know they said him and Achari are traveling and they're trying to get into the lineup for tonight, but that's still a guarantee. So we'll have to see in warm-ups. What I'll mention about Ryan O'Reilly is just kind of building off something you said about his line mates not really doing a whole lot for him this year. Like, just look at his assist totals pretty much tell the story. I think he has half the assists that he does goals, which is not something that he usually does. And the reason that's kind of shocking is O'Reilly does have good offensive numbers this year. He has really good expected goals for impacts. He has like really, really good scoring chance contributions at 5-on-5. He's staying well offensively. Like, the one thing I'll dispute is, how good he is defensively, because there has been a fall off this year, legitimate fall off. But you got to wonder, was he really trying his? I don't want to say he wasn't trying his hardest, but clearly this team was basically out of it after the first month of the season, right? He's had to carry quite a big, there were times he was playing. Josh Leivo's a fine player, but he's played with Josh Leivo for half the season.
Who hasn't been in the lineup in weeks? He's been healthy.
Yeah. So I think Ron O'Reilly will certainly help this team offensively. Whether they need it or not is another question. Whether he helps them defensively, I think is the only real question here. I don't want to throw 10 years of really good defensive play out for half a season of bad, but he is 32 years old now, which he's starting to get up there a little bit. Has played a lot of heavy minutes for a lot of years, so maybe the defensive fall off is for real. But at the very least, wherever he plays, he's going to help them offensively. So we're going to have to see what happens in warmups. But I would, have some interest in an O'Reilly, Tavares, Marner line, absolutely. Even if O'Reilly isn't on the top power play unit, you'd want him there, but it wouldn't really matter a whole lot for how I view that line. The thing that line needs is to create more scoring chances, and that's something Ryan O'Reilly can specifically do. So if he's in the lineup and on the second line, I really would have a lot of interest in a second line of O'Reilly, Marner. Well, like on the Montreal side, Harvey Pinard all the way up to 5,500 feels kind of ridiculous considering he's shooting like 35% or something like that. He only has 11 shots in his last 5 games. It's not like he's generating a lot of volume shots wise. So I think he's just are too expensive to play. The expected goals for numbers with Suzuki are good. 3.6 expected goals for in over 60 minutes together. What I'll point out is that's still a somewhat of a small sample. That's 5 games worth of 5-on-5 ice time. And the shot attempt differential is 54-71 against. A little bit more indicative of what that line is going to do. I suspect that they're going to get run over quite a bit. So, I think Harvey Pinard is just too expensive. If you want off Nick Suzuki or Josh Anderson, I guess that's fine. But I think on the Montreal side, I would just be looking to one off, the cheaper guys that on the wings. Certainly, Josh Anderson qualifies. He is a little bit more expensive at 4,200, but he's still fine. Mike Hoffman, if you want to play him at 4,300, I think that's fine. If getting Dadonov, if you need a punt under 3K, I think that's fine. Just nothing I'm going to stack on the Montreal side. For me, it's just picking some one-offs, and it's a matter of seeing what that Toronto lineup looks like when warm-ups start. Thankfully, it's a 7 Eastern start, so you guys should get that information well in advance of lock.
Yeah, a couple of people were speculating they expect them in the lineup tonight, but if they hit any snags traveling from the U.S. to Canada right now is just a mess. So anything could happen.
Traveling in Canada is just a mess right now.
Yeah, just traveling anywhere sucks, as you mentioned earlier. So yeah, let's move on to the outdoor game. Washington Capitals with a 2.3 total heading into Carolina. The Hurricanes have a 3.2 total. This is a Stadium Series game. It is outside. Alex Ovechkin still away from the team. Man, I hate stacking outdoor games in DFS. The ice is always choppy. The sun could be at the wrong angle, even though it's 8 p.m. and the ice is just crap. So, I don't know. We had this conundrum the other slate where the Hurricanes had a 4.3 total and they had one chalky line. They're not getting much ownership here. So maybe you go to Aho, Jarvis, Svechnikov, who, Svechnikov and Teravainen switched in the first period pretty early. Svechnikov played the whole game there. Seth Jarvis scored twice. Now you get Aho and Svechnikov on the top power play unit. I like that line. It's just a matter of, the ice conditions.
Yeah, and that's kind of always, like you said, it's always the problem with outdoor games. It's wondering what kind of conditions are they going to be in. This DFS is hard enough to predict when you have ideal conditions, let alone playing outdoors in North Carolina. I should say that I don't know what the weather's like in North Carolina right now, so it might be really cold. I doubt it, but yeah, that Jarvis line is obviously the one that's appealing here. Something you and I have talked about a couple times on these shows is how much better Jarvis looks when he's playing with Sebastian Aho. And it's not just eye test or anecdotal or something like that. When Jarvis is skating with Aho at 5-on-5, the team generates 60% more expected goals than when Jarvis is on the ice without him, and the actual goals for rate doubles. It's night and day. I think on our show on Thursday, I was talking about how Seth Jarvis has really, I wouldn't say started to really come around, but his play has certainly improved over, the first month and a half or 2 months of the season. And I think a lot of that has just come playing with Sebastian Aho. I mean, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, he has some offensive skills. He's just really had a tough time putting it all together. And he's, more of a defense first guy at this point. Jordan Stahl's kind of the same way. So Aho is really the only guy Jarvis has to play with. And like I said, him and Aho have played extremely well together, not only this season, but going back to last season. Top stacks tool, I saw it under 4%. Teravainen is still there because that's what they started with last game. If it's Svechnikov, I still don't see a whole lot of ownership going to Carolina here. Washington's not a particularly great matchup. They are missing Ovechkin, but they have typically been pretty good defensively this season. A 3.2 total at home isn't that big. Calgary's 3.5. Philly has a bigger total on the road at 3.3. Kings are at 3.8. Sharks are at 3.4. Buffalo's at 3.5. There are a lot of totals tonight So I can actually see that Carolina line coming in somewhat under-owned, and that would be appealing to me in any format. But like you said, I have a hard time stacking these outdoor games. So like maybe a lot of people feel like that, and it's kind of a game theory play to actually stack them in case they do go off. But in these types of games, I feel a lot better just going with one-offs. So like a one-off Svechnikov, a one-off Jarvis, a one-off Mantha, a one-off, something like that. I think that's about all I would take from the forwards. Because especially on the Washington side, like I was looking at their last game, they definitely jumbled up the lines. As Evgeny Kuznetsov, I think was benched for a little while. He only ended up playing 12 minutes after they stopped benching him. Him and Mantha played together for most of it, but played apart for some. So what that Washington lineup actually looks like is certainly up for debate. And, Backstrom and Milano have played somewhat, or not Milano, Marcus Johansson, sorry. Backstrom and Johansson have played somewhat well together this season. 2.8 expected goals for, 2.3 against per 60 minutes, 5-5. In over 5 minutes. Not a big sample, but that's good. But 0.7 goals for, shooting 3.6%. For people that might be playing NBA, might be kind of new. I think the league average 5-on-5 shooting percentage is about 8.5%, and the league average goals scoring rate per 60 minutes is about 2.6. Even if with their shot rates, with the amount of volume that they're generating, even if they were shooting 10%, they would still only be around 2 goals per 60 minutes. Like, Backstrom's really just not generating a lot of offense while he's on the ice. And that is a big, big problem for Washington, not only tonight against Carolina, but just moving forward. No Ovechkin, outdoor game. Backstrom's kind of playing well, but kind of not. Kuznetsov was benched last game. Like, I just don't see a lot on the Washington side I like here. So if anything for me, it would be the Aho line with Svech and Jarvis. Other than that, I'm just picking one-offs.
Yeah, I think one-offs is the way I want to go about it. It's just like, if this was indoors, I think the totals would be different. 1, 2, the ice is going to be somewhat decent. Like, if you could tell me the ice is going to be like it is in Carolina's, arena, maybe I'd have more interest in Carolina. It's just like, I haven't seen an outdoor game in the past 4 or 5 years where they're not like, "Ooh, the ice is choppy. They need to fix this." You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. It still could be fine. I just don't want to, pin my night in my one lineup on an outdoor game.
Yeah.
While we're moving to the 10 o'clock games, this whole slate is basically at 10 p.m. or later. Good times there. New York Rangers with a 3 total. Heading into Calgary, the Flames have a 3.5. Yaroslav Halak is probable. Igor went last night. Jacob Markstrom is confirmed for the Flames. I'm kind of, I don't know. The Rangers came back and won the game 5-4 last night. They got down pretty quickly early. They took a bunch of dumb penalties. The Oilers capitalized on the power play. And then after the first period, I think the Rangers allowed like 11 shots on goal before overtime, 5-on-5. They really just shut it down. Oilers really aren't a very good 5-on-5 team anyway. Now the Rangers are getting a very good 5-on-5 team here. But Markstrom's in net, and he's been awful this season. The Rangers also back-to-back on the road. It is a 3 road total. I don't know if I'd full stack here, but I don't know. I don't really know if I want to go to any Rangers here. I think one-offing someone is fine, like a Mika Zibanejad, or one-off Philip Hedl, or you want to use Alexis Lafreniere again, or Panarin, who's been on a hot streak. I think that's fine. I think I'm more on the Flame side here. They have a big home total. Igor is not going to start tonight. It's going to be Halak, who actually has been pretty good this season. The Rangers have been pretty decent defensively. That Tarasenko, since Tarasenko went up onto the top line, yeah, maybe their defensive numbers have slipped a little bit, but they're not anything awful. The kids have been, pretty good. Trocheck, Panarin have really good numbers together. So the Rangers have a pretty good penalty kill as well. and the Flames have 3 playable lines, it's just kind of hard to pin down where the scoring is going to come from. So I think this game is more MME for me.
Yeah, it is an interesting game for a lot of reasons because, Calgary takes a lot of penalties. I think they're at 3.6 times shorthanded per game this season, which is top 5 in the league, 5 or 6. So they do take a lot of penalties, but they have a really, really good penalty kill. Like you said, they're a pretty good 5-on-5 team, but their goaltending sucks. So it's kind of like that give and take, push and pull. Like there are a lot of reasons not to play the Rangers going into Calgary tonight, but there are reasons to play the Rangers going into Calgary tonight. I do want to start on the Rangers side real quick. I was looking at the Tarasenko Zibanejad numbers. Obviously, massive grain of salt. They've only played 50 minutes together. He's only been there less than 2 weeks. But their shot attempts for and against, which I would term as their pace, is really, really, really low. For my barometer for a high-paced line of 5-on-5, I look for 120 shot attempts for and against per 60 minutes. So if they generate 60 and allow 60, that's what I consider a high-paced line. Anything above that. Kind of an average line would be at about 105. So like generate 55 and allow 50 shot attempts per 60 minutes or something like that. Zibanejad and Tarasenko are at 38 shot attempts for and 40 against per 60 minutes. That's 78 total shot attempts per 60 when they're on the ice. That is an absolute snail's pace. Like I don't really remember seeing a line with numbers like that. That worries me because not only are they not generating a lot, but you're going into Calgary and you're facing probably that Backlund, Coleman, Mangiapane line, which has been really, really, really good this season. So if you're playing the Rangers, you're banking on Markstrom sucking. That's basically what it comes down to. It's what it comes down to kind of anyway for DFS, NHL, no matter what. Like you're banking on the goalie not having a good night. But that is really the reason why you would play the Rangers here tonight, is hoping that Markstrom falls on his face as he has so many times this season. But like you said, I don't know where I'd want to go. I don't think I would play the Tarasenko, Zibanejad, Kreider line. They're just not generating a lot. It's a brutal matchup going against the Backlund, Coleman, Mangiapane line, like I said. So I'd be out on Rangers 1. Rangers 2 is kind of interesting to me because Trocheck, VC, and Panarin have been playing pretty well together this season. They don't have a huge sample. I think they're up at around 70 minutes right now, but over 3.5 expected goals for. Actual goals for is like double that. Obviously the shooting percentage is a lot of it, but even if you cut their shooting percentage in half, they're still well above average in goal scoring rate. So I do kind of like that Rangers second line. The matchups won't be that great going up against Calgary's top 6, but like I said, like you said, Markstrom's terrible, has been all season long. So I don't really mind going to that Rangers second line. I think that's about it. I would stack on the Rangers side would be that second line. Like, if you want to sneak in as a manager or something, go ahead. But I think it would just be Rangers 2. On the Calgary side, one thing we talked about for the Flames, really this season, they're generating a lot of shot attempts, but not a lot of quality. And they weren't scoring for that reason. It's kind of like that Carolina problem sometimes. That Dubé to Foley Lindholm line's kind of falling back into that trap again. Over the last month, 72 shot attempts per 60 minutes of 5-on-5, which is like super, super high. That's generating a ton of shot attempts, but only 2.6 expected goals. That's basically league average. They're not generating that much quality. Now, if you're going to shoot, 18% or whatever it is that they're shooting over the last month when they're on the ice together, then yeah, you're going to look pretty good. But they're really not generating a lot of quality, and that bothers me. So I think for the Flames, I think the second line's fine. Kadri, Huberdeau, and Peltier, they've been playing extremely well together. They're up over 65 minutes together, 3.4 expected goals for, 1.5 against per 60 minutes. That's really, really good. But it's kind of that Calgary 3 line I think I'm interested in here because the Rangers don't take a ton of penalties. They're only at 2.8 times shorthanded per game. League average is about 3.2. And the Rangers typically have a good penalty kill. And, Calgary split up the power play units. They're basically 2 even units now, so you're not really getting an advantage playing the top line anymore. I think it would be Calgary 3 I would go after that Zibanejad, Tarasenko top line that might not be that great defensively in the long run and try to get in on the ground floor. So for me, it'd be Rangers 2, Calgary 3, but I think I'm kind of in your boat of not being super excited to stack anything in this one.
Yeah, if you're a Rangers fan or you watch some Rangers games, Mika Zibanejad plays 5-on-5 like it's the power play. So
yeah.
He just like hangs out looking for slap shots. So that's probably why they're playing at such a slow pace. Kreider has the hockey IQ of a wooden barrel. So like if he's in the right spots, he's in the right spots. He's just a monster on skates. But like, yeah, I mean that maybe they'll come around. Tarasenko is getting used to playing with Kreider and Zibanejad. It's much different than playing with Robert Thomas and those guys. So it is a small sample. They'll probably pick it up. This is not the matchup. I don't think I agree with you. Probably that Mangiapane line is probably my favorite from this game. As we mentioned off the top, abruptly, when we just, dropped in on the air unknowingly, we are sponsored by PrizePicks. And you can get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum and a $100 deposit match bonus when you sign up and make a deposit at PrizePicks. Jake and I made a card on the show yesterday. We can't do that today because, one, it's not legal in New Jersey, so I can't log into an account and make one. Cliffy doesn't have his normal equipment. I don't even know. Is PrizePicks even legal where you're at in Montreal? I don't even know.
I don't know if it's legal in Quebec. I know it's legal in New Brunswick. I can check out PrizePicks in New Brunswick. I don't, because Quebec has different rules for Quebec and Ontario have different rules for fantasy and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe we'll build one on another show. I can get logged in. But if you click the link in the description, get that 1 free month, which is $120 value and a $100 deposit match bonus. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure how the card did yesterday. I know Igor didn't hit the over saves, but I know Trouba hit. I think it was like 4 or 6, and you probably would have 2 extra money. So not bad. Let's move on to the next game. That's kind of teetering on a 7 over/under here. Philadelphia Flyers with a 3.3 total heading into Vancouver. The Canucks have a 3.5. Samuel Ersson, Colin Delia. That's probably why the totals are so high. No one can stop a nosebleed. Although I was looking at goalie stats. Samuel Ersson, in a very small sample this season, at his high danger saves above expected is ridiculously high. But again, it's a very small sample. And it was probably from that Buffalo game where he had like 51 saves and Buffalo had like 14 power plays. But still, small sample, ridiculously high danger saves above expected. Again, not logged on to Twitter. Thank you, Elon, for your wonderful app. But I didn't see Vancouver lines. I don't know if
Kuzmenko's on the top line with Pedersen and Beauvillier.
Beautiful. That's the line I was hoping would be together. That's the line I am interested in. I'm going to assume a lot of people are going to be interested in that line. Plenty of ways to get different, even if, Kuzmenko isn't on the top power play, but, you get Pedersen and Beauvillier up there. They're not very expensive. 89, 17 and change, which is very reasonable, which is why you're seeing so much ownership on them. But like power play correlation in this matchup, not a massive deal. Philadelphia has a very good penalty kill. Remains to be seen if Samuel Ersson is actually legit or not. But again, you're not really playing them for the power play. This is a good 5-on-5 matchup, so that's the line that interests me the most.
Yeah, I will start on the Vancouver side. I think this is the spot to not play Vancouver. And it's weird to say that when they have such a huge at home. The reason I'm saying that is twofold. One, it's the shit. Like Top Stacks tool has them as the highest owned line on tonight's slate, over 20% on DraftKings. That's a lot. That is really, really high. They do stand a pretty good chance of success, so I'm not going to fault anybody for playing them. But there is going to be a lot of ownership. And the second part of that is Vancouver's power play / Philadelphia's penalty kill. Vancouver is a team, you and I have said it a lot, that lives in, their fantasy value lives and dies with the power play. Like it's almost Edmonton-esque, right? Just, we're talking different, levels of scoring, but McDavid guys were especially Nugent Hopkins power play for their DFS value. Vancouver's no different. You just, Kuzmenko, I think something like 40% of his goals are on the power play this year, something like that. Like, it's a lot. And the Philadelphia penalty kill has been really, really good for a long time now. Like, basically going back to Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, like the late November. Still, like, elite shot against numbers on the penalty kill. And they don't take a ton of time shorthanded per game. I think, top 10 in the league for fewest time shorthanded per game. So the Flyers don't take a lot of penalties. They have an excellent penalty kill and have had for months. And Vancouver's a team that lives and dies with the power play, and they're coming in with a lot of ownership. That's why I kind of said I think this is a spot to, fade Vancouver if you're playing single entry or 3-max or something like that. Now, obviously, if you're playing MME, you're playing 50, 100, 150 lineups or something, you're going to have Vancouver. You're not going to straight fade a 20% line if you have 150 lineups to play. But if you're playing single entry, I think it makes a lot of sense to not play Vancouver in this matchup just because of the ownership and because it's not really a good special team matchup for them. Token, it is Samuel Ersson in net. The Flyers aren't great at 5-on-5. Vancouver certainly can get there. But if you're asking me to play an over-owned Vancouver line in a bad power play spot, I think that's a fade for me. So I might be out on the Canucks entirely here. I'm certainly not playing Phil DiGiuseppe and JT Miller. I don't even like Jack Studnicka and Brock Besser, with Besser not even on the power play. There's just not a lot there that's interesting outside the top line. So it's top line, if anything, on Vancouver, but I think it's a pass for me. On the Flyers side, Torts, what are you doing, buddy? Putting Nick Delorier with Travis Konechny? Is that what we're doing? Nick Delorier played like the last 5 or 6 shifts of Philly's last game with Travis Konechny. I don't know if that's what's going to happen tonight, but it's certainly not a good sign for the stability of Travis Konechny's line mates with a face puncher. So it's, where do you want to go on the Flyers side? Like, even Konechny and Farabee, just the two of them, or sorry, not Konechny and Farabee, Konechny and Cates, just the two of them, don't really have good numbers this year. 2.5 expected goals for, 2.4 actual goals for per 60 minutes, over 150 minutes together. It's not a small sample. They're not really playing that well. Obviously, Vancouver's terrible, but if you're asking me, do I want to play Travis Konechny, who might be lining up with Nick Delorier, and we're not going to find out until after lock? Not super excited. I think if anything, it'd be Hayes and Allison, hopefully playing with Scott Lawton is where I would go. Hayes and Allison have played exceptionally well offensively together this year. 3.5 expected goals for, 2.7 actual goals for. They're above average scoring despite being well below average by shooting percentage. If that ever regresses positively, they're really going to start filling the net. Hayes, Allison, and Lawton is where I would go if that's what they end up doing with their lines. The problem with Hayes is, like, his shots have started to slow down. Like, you and I talked just before, I think, the All-Star break about how much he was shooting. His last 10 games, he only has 23 shots on goal. That's kind of it's a notable decline. But he should still be on the top power play unit. Scott Lawton might be there, might not. They change up their power play units more than I change my socks. So it's kind of tough to tell who's going to be up there. But Hayes and Allison have played really, really well together this season. Vancouver's not a tough matchup by any stretch of the imagination, whether at 5-on-5 or on the power play. There's no matchups that I would be worried about from that point of view. So it would be like a 2-man Allison Hayes that I have a lot of interest in, but we're just going to have to see if Philadelphia can, give us some indication of what they're going to be running with tonight. But I think the big thing in this game is I'm just excited to play Vancouver. Some people.
Yeah. Hopefully we get a playable Philly line. We won't know until later tonight, though. Tampa Bay Lightning with a 3.1 total. Heading into Vegas, the Golden Knights have a 2.9 total. Andre Vasilevsky, Aiden Hill probable. This game, I don't know. I saw this game on the schedule, saw the total, saw the ownership. This is just a tough one for me. I don't know. Like, I don't want a power play stack either side. I think if anything, I'll go back to Kucherov, Point, and Hagel. But it really is matchup dependent here. I don't mind. Like, I don't mind taking a stab on Carrier, Stevenson, Kessel, but the problem is they're getting a little bit expensive for my taste. So I don't know. This game just screams MME for me.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea to just kind of stick this in the MME bucket. Vegas has been playing pretty well lately. They've been on a little bit of. I will note, is their competition, right? I was looking, 3 of their last 4 games have been San Jose, Anaheim, and Nashville. So, these recent the numbers and line combinations take them a little bit of a grain of salt because that's a pretty soft schedule. But that top line did play well in those games. Eichel, Cotter, welcome back, Cotter. Eichel, Cotter, Marchessault, 3.3 expected goals for, 4.5 actual goals for, shooting just over 10%, which is perfectly normal. Are generating quite a bit. The problem with the Vegas side is they've really started to spread out their ice time a little. Like, I think everybody between the first and third lines are all within like 13 to 18 minutes per game, that's a little bit of a problem. Like, you want Eichel playing 20 to 21. You don't want him playing 17 to 18. Jonathan Marchessault really hitting a lot lately. 25 shots in his last 10 games. That's kind of unlike him. But that line is generating quite a bit of offense. And what we've noted on shows over basically like the last month is Tampa Bay's defensive slide. Like, they really haven't been a great defensive team for a little while now. Their expected goals against numbers are basically in the middle of the league. Like, they're tied with San Jose, Ottawa against since January 1st. That's 7 weeks ago. So it's not really, I don't think it's really a brutal matchup. But do they score enough at 5-on-5 to really get there? Because this isn't a team that thrives on the power play, generate many power play opportunities, 2.6 per game. It's either the lowest or second lowest in the league. So Vegas doesn't get a lot of power plays. Tampa Bay doesn't take a lot of penalties. They're basically league average in that regard. So I'm not really super stoked to stack anything on the Vegas side, even though I think it's a fine 5-on-5 matchup. The line that's starting to kind of interest me is Carlson, Smith, and Amadio. Only about 50 minutes together, but 94 shot attempts per 60 minutes generated in those 50 minutes together. That's a lot. And, Wild Bill Carlson and Michael Amadio have well together besides that. So there is a sample of Carlson and Amadio playing well. Riley Smith has really good scoring chance creation numbers this season. I kind of mind this line for the Golden Knights. Like, they're not coming in with much ownership, like literally under 1%. They're fine filler, I think. I think you can leave Amadio off if you want, not getting a lot of ice time. But I think that's a nice depth line, like, to use if you're going to use super expensive Buffalo or Toronto or something like that here tonight. On the Tampa side, just not a whole lot. Like, I'm with you. Like, this doesn't seem like a really great matchup for the Lightning. And I know I said Vegas had a soft schedule over the last few games, but basically going back to Christmas, they're a top 5 defensive expected goals against at 5-on-5, and they're the least penalized team in the league. I'm with you. I don't think there's a lot that I want to stack on the Tampa side. Like, I would probably just be going after one-offs. I think Stamkos makes a really good one-off. Anthony Cirelli's scoring chance creation numbers are absurd this year. I think he makes a decent one-off as well. But that's about it for me on the Tampa side for their forwards.
Yep. And before we move on, I see we have a $4.99 super chat from Wolf Girl. Can't speak again. How does Vegas line match? Also, thanks for the great shows, boys. Had a decent night last night. Thank you for the super chat. I think I saw you post something this morning. I don't even remember. You were posting. Do you sleep? I know you're way out that way, but I'm not 100% sure how Vegas line matches at home. Cliffy would probably know better than I. Maybe. There he is.
Sorry, you just seem to be kind of cutting out on me. But yeah, first of all, thank you very much, Wolf Girl, for that super chat. We really do appreciate your support. Not only with the super chat, but in the Discord and everything. You're certainly a very valuable member of our community. So thank you. It depends how you want to look at what they're going to be, what you would consider a top line. But I think you're going to see Nick Roy used a fair bit in a shutdown role. You're certainly not going to see much of Eichel. You're not going to see Phil Kessel, obviously. So I think you'd see the Vegas bottom six go out against the Tampa Bay, at least the top line, a fair bit here tonight. So it does leave that Vegas top six in second and third line matchups. But, Tampa Bay's depth for years now has not been bad defensively. So I don't think it's a great matchup for Vegas, even though they might avoid the top line. Like I might actually would rather go out against the Stamkos line or something like that.
Yeah, that is true. It's nice to know. I just, I don't know if I'm prioritizing this game in 1-3. I obviously haven't built my lineup yet. Going to do MMA first. That locks at 4. And then, hockey 7 with a bunch of late games. So I have some time here. Arizona Coyotes with a 2.6 total heading into Los Angeles. The Kings have a 3.8. Karel Vejmelka is confirmed. Now, Phoenix Copley got ejected in the second period yesterday, and Quick came in. So it could be Quick tonight. It could be Copley. We don't know. Gibson tried to fight him. Didn't come. The refs broke it up. So, that's one of those games. Kings don't really confirm goalies anyway. It's kind of hard to guess now. Like, they played yesterday. You would assume it's going to be Quick, but he also played half the game, so not sure here. 3.8 total at home, back-to-back. Man, the Kings have a deep lineup with everybody healthy. The fourth line of Kaliev, Gabe Vilardi, and Rasmus Kupari, that is nuts. Blake Lizotte had 7 shots on goal and a goal yesterday. Fiala had a big game. The Kopitar line scored a couple points. Victor Arvidsson had 2 goals. Like, they're just a deep, deep lineup. This is a very good power play spot again. I'm kind of in a conundrum here because I think Vejmelka is one of my favorite goalies on the slate. But I think there's a lot of merit to going to both sides here.
Yeah, I am going to start on the Kings side. I was really hoping we'd see Vilardi on the third line. He's not. Like, he has played center before in the past. I think his first full season in the NHL, he played center. So he can do it. But he's not. And that kind of sucks, even though he's on the top power play unit. That has booted Quinton Byfield off the top power play unit, so they no longer have perfect correlation. But it's not the Kings top. It's really, to me, it's that Kings second line, right? Dano, Moore, Arvidsson. They're going to be used in a shutdown role up against the top line for Arizona. And the top line for Arizona, over 3 expected goals against per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 over the last month. That is, off the top of my head, about 20% worse than league average. It's pretty bad. I think that's a pretty good matchup at 5-on-5 for that Kings second line, which have been generating 3 expected goals against per 60 minutes this season. And they're all back on that second power play unit, right? And that's something earlier in the season, like basically up until Arthur Kaliev got hurt, it was far and away Los Angeles' better power play unit. And the Arizona Coyotes do take a lot of penalties. They're at 3.8 times shorthanded per game this season. I think that's still leading the league. It's either them or Florida. So still Arizona taking a ton of penalties. Not a very good penalty kill. They're relying on their goaltending, 900 penalty kill save percentage over their last 20 games. That's the only reason the penalty kill hasn't been getting filled in. And that, and that Kings second power play unit has been pretty good this season when they've all been healthy. The problem is they're coming in around 10% ownership, which is a little high. That bothers me. But just in a nutshell, that Kings second line is my favorite here in this game. I do think there is a lot of merit to just, power play stacking the Kings if you want. Like, I think you can leave, like, if you want to play the top line, put on Fiala or something like that, right? Like, I think that's about the way I would approach it. Like, this is a game where I would focus more on the power play players than the 5-on-5 lines, especially on the Kings side. For Arizona, like, both their top lines have been playing well. But I'm not going to take Arizona 1 going into that Dano line is one of those matchups that you and I typically avoid. I don't want to put sorry, but
they're overall.
It is a matchup that I would. Yeah, it is a matchup that I would typically avoid. They are coming in with negative leverage per the top stacks tool as well. Like, I think they're fine in the sense that the Kings goaltending's terrible, right? Copley's been okay. But I think his save percentage is still under 900, and Quick's been pretty bad this season. So the goaltending matchup doesn't really worry me. I'm pretty sure the Kings have been starting to take more penalties over the last 6-7 weeks as well. But their penalty kill has been really, really good. So I do like the Arizona top line. I just think they're coming with a bit too much ownership. Like, if they were like 2% or 3%, I would really be considering them. Somewhere's around 8 to 10%. I think that's a pass for me. The Arizona second line is where things start to get a little bit of interesting for me, because Los Angeles's top line, the Kopitar line, hasn't really been great defensively. And that Arizona second line has been pretty good offensively. I mean, I don't want to say pretty good. Pretty good is relative in Arizona. 2.7 expected 40 minutes. Only shooting 7.5%, though. That's kind of the problem. But Nick Bjugstad was moved up to the top power play in their last game, so he's getting power play minutes, which is something that second line wasn't getting earlier. Michelli, still a great playmaker. I think it's the Arizona second. I don't know if I would full stack them, but a two-man like Bjugstad, Michelli, or something like that, I think is one of the ways I would go. Is the way I would go on the Arizona side. For the Kings, it is that Kings second line that I really do like here.
Yeah, I do like this game, and we'll have to figure out what we're doing here, but we got time. Now we have a special offer for all y'all loyal listeners. Thank you very much. 125 of you in chat. Smash that like button while you're here. Puts a smile on my face, and we like when Josh smiles. But you can, if you click the link in the description below, you can get 50% off a weekly or monthly NHL membership. The monthly, you'll get it for under $30. The regular value is $60. The weekly, you'll get under $10. The regular price is $20. You'll get access to everything NHL. I would share my screen, but I guess I could. Hold on, I'll show you the lineup builder. This could get a little bit funky, but here we go. Whee! There we go. Here's the lineup builder. You get the lineup builder, and if you are a member, you get, the lines, you get the line projection. Oh, I didn't share anything. Good for me. I'm an idiot. Here we are. I'm just talking, and there's nothing on the screen, but you get the line projections, you get the ownership, you get the power play units. Classic Josh. What a day without me.
I gotta give you the props, man. Like, you're producing and hosting the show at the same time while I'm out on vacation. I'm laughing at you, but I really shouldn't be. You're doing yeoman's work here, and I appreciate you. So thanks.
You leave me for one day. Don't know how to screen share. You jumped out of an airplane straight live onto the show. There was no countdown screen. I don't know. When you click the live button, we get 2 minutes of countdown. I click it and boom, live. So here we are. Just make sure you click that link in the description. Click the link in the description. You get everything we have to offer, including the Discord, which is awesome. The weekly will get you through the rest of the NBA All-Star break. Discord is great. A lot of sharp minds in there. A lot of tilting. yeah, make sure to click that link in the description. That is the only way to do it. Get that weekly, get that monthly, and we'll see you in Discord tonight. Let's get to the final two games here. The Buffalo Sabres with a 3.5 total heading into San Jose. The Sharks have a 3.4 total. Uka Pekalukinen and Capo Kakinen confirmed. I'm going from this to MMA Live before lock, where I will not be able to pronounce fighters' names. I don't know what it is. I finally figured out how to pronounce hockey names. Can't do fighters' names, but those guys are probable. This game is a 7 over/under. Whew. I like I like both top lines in this game. I think Kevin LeBanc is back up with Hurdle and Meyer, which definitely helps their expected goal numbers. You know, Bonino up there was fine, but LeBanc is a better offensive player. I also don't mind that House Esimont line with Couture and Barabanov. You know, Buffalo's not very good defensively, so I think going to the Sharks here is fine. On the Buffalo side, that top line, not getting too much ownership. They are very expensive, though. Sharks not very good defensively. Penalty kill has fallen off since early in the season. Capo Kakinen, nothing special. So I think there's a lot to like on both sides here.
Yeah, there is. What I don't like about the Sharks side is all the ownership, right? The top line is projected to be the second highest owned stack of the night, and the second line is projected to be the fourth highest owned stack of the night. So their top six are in the top lines tonight. So you can probably expect somewhere around one out of every three lines is to have either the San Jose 1 or San Jose 2. You mentioned those expected goals numbers with Kevin LeBanc, and yes, like their offensive numbers are better with Kevin LeBanc there than not. But Hurdle and Meyer have just been playing well regardless, right? Like I was looking at their numbers. Like since Christmas, their expected goals against are over 4. That's absurd. That's like 55 or 60% higher than the league average. Shooting percentage is under 7.5%, so that's the problem. That's why they're not scoring a ton. But you know, it was like a few weeks ago when Florida 2 went bananas when they're generating a ton of offense, but the shooting percentage wasn't there, and then all of a sudden they explode for like 14 points in one game. I'm not expecting they win here tonight, but they are generating so much offense that if they just have one lucky game, they can score like 5 goals by themselves. So I really, really do like that San Jose top line here in both 5-on-5 and on the power play. It's just the ownership, right? There's just a lot of ownership. But here's where the top stacks tool is kind of important, because there is a lot of ownership. They're coming in between 18 and 19% on DraftKings. But the top 2 stack probability is over 16%. So the negative leverage itself isn't that high. I think, if anything, I would play San Jose 1, and I might just turn it into a power play stack. So, you know, take off LeBanc, because we're not sure that LeBanc is going to be there. He just got moved up in their last game. And they have been rotating wingers up there pretty much for like the last month. But, you know, you can do like a Hurdle Meyer Couture or a Hurdle Meyer Barabanov or something like that. I think that's perfectly acceptable. San Jose 2 has also been playing very well, particularly on offense. There's just too much ownership here. I'm pretty sure they're the most negative leveraged line on the night. Yes, they are. 4.6% top 2 stack, 12.5% ownership. 3 times higher ownership than top 2 stack. That's a feat for me. So San Jose 1/San Jose power play, especially where the Buffalo penalty kill, it's been better lately, has generally not been good this season. On the Buffalo side, like I think it's the top line you go to, right? Because I don't have a lot of confidence in those second, third, fourth lines staying together. You know what I mean? Because they have been jumbling their depth quite a bit and their lines quite a bit over the last few weeks. So I would just go right to the Buffalo top line, 3.6 goals for, 3.6 actual goals for over the last month. What bothers me is Tage Thompson has seen both a shot attempt rate drop and an ice time drop, and that's kind of a double whammy, where you're shooting less per minute and you're getting fewer minutes. But it's not a tough matchup going into San Jose. That second line, for as good as they are offensively, not that great defensively. The top line is fine defensively, but certainly not like a Bergeron matchup or something, or a Phil Deneau matchup or something like that. So Buffalo 1, San Jose 1, San Jose power play is where I would in this game. I think you want the big guns. This isn't a game where I would be fishing into the depth.
Yep, I agree with that. Let's get to that last game of the night quickly. Detroit Red Wings with a 2.9 total. Heading into Seattle, the Kraken have a 3.6 total. Philly Husso, Vilt, Grubauer are probable. Seattle's a pretty good team. It's always a question of the goaltending, so I think I like going back to Detroit 1 here. If you want to, have a one-off Robbie Fabry or one-off David Perron, I think that is also fine. On the Seattle side, it's either going to be the Beniers line for me or the Yanni Gourde line. Yanni Gourde probably going to go out against the Larkin Bertuzzi line. That Beniers line is going to get better matchups, so I think I'm going to defer to the Beniers line.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Seattle side. Gordon Bjorkstrand have been playing well, but they are probably going to go up against Detroit 1. That leaves, like you said, it leaves the Beniers line against the Detroit second and third lines. And, Kopp and Rasmussen, 2.1 expected goals for, 2.5 against. They're getting outplayed when they're on the ice. Kopp really isn't doing a whole lot this year, either offensively or defensively. Like, he has decent transition numbers, and that's it. Like, there's not a lot. So Beniers, McCann, and Eberle would be the line that I would go to. I agree with you on that front. And I was looking at their numbers recently, just their last 50 minutes. They're still outplaying the opposition. 2.7 expected goals for, 1.6 against. It's not great offensive numbers, but they are outplaying the opposition. Jared McCann is on the top power play unit. Quote, top power play unit, if that's what you want to call it. But Beniers only has 8 shots in 6 games since he came back from injury. He wasn't a guy that was shooting a lot before, but now he's shooting less, and that's a little bit of a concern. But I agree with you. That would be the line I would go to. I think away, I like the Detroit side here. One thing that you and I talked about was Dylan Larkin without Lucas Raymond on his line, and the difference is stark. Over the last 2 seasons, Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond on the ice together, 48% goal share. Dylan Larkin on the ice without him, 58% goal share. Expected goals from 48% to 56%. 2.3 goals for with Lucas Raymond, 3.1 goals for without Lucas Raymond. Like, Raymond is dragging down that line. There's just no other way to interpret that data. That's why I kind of like the Detroit top line here, is because, Raymond's not going to be there. You get Bertuzzi and Larkin on the top power play unit. The Seattle penalty has generally struggled this year. Not terrible lately, but has generally struggled. And we're not ownership the Detroit top line either, coming in between 2% and 3%. So Larkin, Bertuzzi, Kubalik is what I like on the Detroit side. You can leave Kubalik off and put on like a Perron or a Fabry to make it a power play stack to take advantage of what has been a weak Seattle penalty kill. But that's where I am in this game, is McCann line for sure on the Seattle side. I think I kind of like that Larkin line on the other side.
Yeah, I don't mind making that a power play stack. Wish Kubalik was on the top power play, but what can you do? Goes to Jeff Blashill, still coaching the team. Let's talk about the little gremlins that live behind the blue line here. Like, I don't know. Who you like? There isn't much that I really like tonight.
I mean, I think the defensemen in that Buffalo San Jose game, like the top defensemen, Carlson and Dahlin, like those would be of the expensive. Like, I know, they are priced up as amongst the most expensive defensemen, but of the guys like at 6 to 8K range for Blue on DraftKings, I think it's Erik Karlsson and Rasmus Dahlin that I would look to. They're big engines of the offense. You have a huge total in that game. You're going to play heavy minutes, good power play spots, all that stuff. So those are the expensive guys I would look at. Obviously, Morgan Riley running the power play for Toronto against Montreal, like, you'd want that. Tony DeAngelo he's not carrying it, which I get because he doesn't get huge ice time. But that Vancouver penalty kill is terrible, and he's still running the top power play unit. I don't mind DeAngelo. So, like, Riley, DeAngelo, Ekblad, Shea is kind of like my quartet in that mid-priced range. I don't mind David Savard either on the Montreal side. Like he might have to block like 10 shots here tonight if they have any hope of winning. So I know he's expensive for a pure shot blocker, but I honestly think he has a strong projection. I honestly think he can pay it off without getting a goal in his night. If you want to pay down, Baldwin under 4K is always appealing to me for Detroit. Justin Schultz is $2,000 cheaper than Vince Dunn. I'd just play Schultz. Juuso Valimaki, top power play for Arizona. He's in the threes for Kings. I like him as well. If you leave cheap, I think Harris in Montreal, he's another guy that might have to block some shots here tonight.
Cousin Jordan always in play with the new contract as well. Who you liking in net? I have a hard time like scrolling past Vejmelka without going, yeah, I think I like him.
Yeah, Vejmelka, I have 4 goalies on my list. Vejmelka was the first one I wrote down. So yes. Kemper obviously played any goalie against Carolina, even in the outdoor game. Halak kind of interesting to me here tonight. You know, he's not really he'd have like a hefty price tag tonight. So and he's going against Calgary. And I talked earlier about how that top line in particular has had troubles generating quality shots, but not quantity. Halak might just see a lot of quantity here tonight, not necessarily a lot of quality. So I don't mind him either. If I'm playing an expensive goalie, it's probably Vasilevsky, but I think it's down to Vejmelka, Kemper, and Halak for me.
Yeah, Halak is definitely interesting at 7,100. The Rangers are a good team. Like the top in the East would be blowing out the West if they're in the West. You know what I mean? Like just points wise. So well, I
saw something like that about the Vancouver Canucks. Like the Vancouver have a winning record against the Western Conference this year. It's just they're like 7-19-2 against the East or something like that. Like they're just getting drilled by the East Conference.
Like I rag on the Rangers, but they are actually a very good team. And Halak at 7,100, I think is definitely in play. Who you liking for your hat trick pick?
I'm going to our boys, Los Kangs, and to the third line for Kevin Fiala.
Very nice. I went chalky yesterday. I got to go back to the spice. I'm going Robbie Fabry from the Detroit Red Wings.
Ooh, I like that. Let's go Wangs.
Let's go Wangs. Cliffy and I will be back on Monday for another NBA All-Star Game slate. So
if I can get
we'll see you on Monday. Coming up later today, Greg and I will be on the MMA Live Before Lock at 3 p.m. coming up in about 55 minutes. So if you're playing MMA, make sure to check that out. Smash that button, add that like button on the way out. Make sure to get that weekly and monthly for 50% off. That deal is not going to be there for much longer. So we'll see you in Discord tonight. Cliffy, have fun. Try not to have too much fun without me. And I'll see you on Monday.
Ole, 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 ole. Ole, ole.
If I hit end broadcast, I'm probably going to still be live.
No, you can hit end broadcast now.
Yeah. All right. Good night, everybody.